Back again with the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell is from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB as we talk some Chiefs football and time for our predictions. First, we'll talk about Rashee Rice. The suspension has come down. Credit to Sam McDowell, was pretty much hinting at the fact that it was going to come in our last podcast. If you missed it, make sure you download it and hear it. The 6-game suspension is out. What does that mean for the Kansas City Chiefs? We will talk about that first and foremost. Then we talk about our awards: Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, biggest surprise, biggest disappointment. What's the final record going to be? Where will they finish in the playoffs? In other words, are they going to go out in the Super Bowl? Are they going to go out in the conference championship game? We will break that down. And finally, our bold and daring predictions. They're bold. They're daring. At least we're trying to make them bold and daring. We're doing it right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. And let's start with it. Rashee Rice. Sam, I mentioned you were talking a lot last podcast that this could come down before the beginning of the season. It does indeed come down. What's your reaction to it being 6 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of us have been on the same page on this aspect of it, which is I don't think there's any argument that it's too steep. And that's coming from someone who thought it wouldn't be quite as steep. I thought it would be more in the 4-game range. Here it is at 6 after a settlement with the player agreed to. But I think I went back and watched that video again this week, and it's a really tough watch. And what's stunning still to me to this day is that no one was more seriously injured than, obviously you had injuries, but I mean, they're absolutely lucky that nobody was killed in that accident, driving 119 miles an hour. So my big takeaway from this is Rashee Rice now has a plea agreement. Rashee Rice now has a suspension. This is an opportunity to make this part of his past and not part of his future. But there's only one person who can do that. Like, if he's the one, whatever prompted Rashee Rice to wake up one morning and decided that renting or leasing a Lamborghini SUV and driving it against another car down the highway was a good idea, that lifestyle has to be put behind him. And I think this could be a turning point for him to do that, but he's the one in complete control of whether or not that happens or not.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Jeff, you and I were both kind of the 6+ crowd. It ends up being 6. I'm kind of surprised that, the league settled down at 6. If, there were talk that they were going to 8 to 10, and maybe that was the scare tactic to get Rashee Rice to agree to the 6 either way. But it is 6, which is significant. I don't want to make it sound trivial, but I think Rashee Rice should also, I would add to what Sam said, I think everything Sam said is correct, but should also consider himself pretty lucky to get away with 6, because I think there were a lot of us that thought that this was, and Sam looking at that video again, that is the part, the video, that this could have been a lot worse, that in some ways he got off lighter than he could have.
Yeah, I always thought 6 was the right number, given first-time offense and the severity of the actions. But I agree, they could have easily gone higher, and nobody would have had a problem with it. But I always felt like people who thought it'd be 2 or 4 were always trying to compare it to other things. And there's really the only thing to compare this to really is Henry Ruggs, who killed somebody, because that was something that could have happened with Rashee Rice's situation. And the NFL has never, ever wanted to get in bed with anybody who embarrasses them to that extent. So I always thought 6 was good for him. I thought it was smart to get out of the way now, because if he had gone to the hearing and they had pushed this, had the hearing, then pushed the decision into October, and then all of a sudden it's a much longer suspension. Maybe Goodell really wants to send a message if you want to go that far with it. So I always felt like it would probably get done beforehand. And now he does know what it is. The Chiefs do know what it's going to be. I think it's a big impact to their team, losing him for the first 6 games. But the upside is that what you're going to be when he comes back. And as Sam said, hopefully he learns a lesson from this. Some guys don't do that. He's got a great opportunity to grow from this.
Does the league system work, Sam? Did we watch this play out the way it should, or is there something that needs to be tweaked for how this happened? They got it done. They let the legal process play out. They got it done before the season. It does seem like a saber was rattled over his head to get it done. Like, okay, and you hinted at this a while ago that, look, if you don't want to take it, we'll make it more. Kind of played out exactly the way you kind of laid it out, that, they and whether they leaked it on purpose or not, but it does seem like that got it done, but it did get done. Does the system work?
Look, this is a tough spot because I don't have the ideal system in place. So I really don't like criticizing something where I don't have like a better option for it. But
right.
I think it's pretty clear that the system needs tweaking in some fashion. Like there needs to be better communication between league, player, team, all that stuff. I don't think is happening to the degree to which it could. And I still believe that it's bad optics that Rashee Rice was playing on opening night last year. The NFL's opening night last year, just 5 months after that car crash happened, and he caused it. I didn't think that was a great look. I thought you had it on video. I thought there was at least enough evidence to do something. So no, I mean, I certainly think that the system could be changed in some way.
And it's important to note, Soren, that why the system is the way it is, right? You go back 15 years and there are all kinds of issues off the field with Pac-Man Jones and other guys, Chris Henry. And so the NFL and the NFLPA wanted to do something about this kind of stuff. And so they gave Goodell all that power to do that. And obviously he became pretty merciless in the way he exacted that power. And so now you've got a system where the NFLPA can have more conversations about how it goes down, but Goodell still holds the final say in how this goes about. And really, they want this system in place because they don't want to have all these prolonged court proceedings like you saw with Tom Brady, like you saw with Ezekiel Elliott, where you're just constantly talking about for months on end about, this player and legal processes. So the hope is that not just Rashee Rice, but all players learn how to deal with some of this stuff better. But this is a big issue. Quietly, that no one talks enough about the street racing part of this. This is a big issue in society, but especially with NFL players. This is happening way more often than people realize.
College players too, and Kansas City too. I mean, this has been a Kansas City issue for the last 3 or 4 years that law enforcement here has tried to decide. It was in 2022 where there was a pedestrian killed, basically, while watching a street show. And I had written, of course, about this Rashee Rice suspension. The way I phrase it is, it's not an identical situation to Rashee Rice's, just, street racing down the street as opposed to the street show that was in Kansas City. But it could have been an identical outcome. And that's the important part here is this, I've seen some people suggest that, there's a little bit of a bad break, the fact that Rashee Rice's was caught on video and some of these others are not. And therefore, this gave the opportunity for the league to set the example. Like, to me, this is a case of extreme good fortune because this was the best possible outcome that could have happened when you race your car against another car down a busy highway driving 119 miles per hour.
Yeah, I agree. I just the term lucky or good or like I don't think there's a place in this. This is the man broke laws and endangered lives and deserves a punishment. You can argue whether or not it should be more or less, but I don't think lucky or I can't go there. I did think it was interesting. Seth Kaiser, who breaks down tape and comes on my radio show and writes a newsletter about the Chiefs, is a prosecuting attorney by day. And, one of the things I remember talking to him when this case came down, I said, hey, he could have killed this many people. He said, well, but the law works based upon what you did, not what you could have done. And I thought that put a little something into perspective. Then when this came down, he said, well, I think they did a little bit. The suspension was based a little more about what could have happened. And I get it, but this isn't the law, right? I think that's the separation there. I do think that they were harsh. I mean, you can make a case that, hey, there was other people that went 127 miles an hour. There are other people that had car crashes. I would also say there's another man that raced his car and killed someone, and he doesn't play football anymore, right? So that's to Jeff's point, Henry Ruggs, I think is like it didn't go that far, but it could have gone that far. This isn't the law. He's being suspended from his job. He is not being thrown out of the country. People, seem to equate that somehow your First Amendment right to speech means you can say whatever you want around the office. You can't go in and tell the boss his wife is fat and ugly and his kids are morons. You're going to get fired, right? You could say it outside, but you don't have to be employed. And that's an important distinction to make here. And I think it is important for the league to keep, if the other messages aren't getting through, to keep kind of ramping this up and saying, we're serious about this.
Yeah, people don't understand that this is a workplace issue. This is a workplace policy. That's the way to look at it. And it drives me crazy. People say, oh, you get a year for marijuana, or you get such and such for this, or domestic violence is 6 days. Yeah, because it's concrete stuff, right? You fail a drug test, we know what you did. You hit a woman, you get convicted of that, we know what it is. This is a personal conduct policy that is very ambiguous. And that's what, if you want to fix it, maybe you can make it a little more narrow in how you legislate stuff. But ultimately, it's a wide purview for the league to say, if you embarrass us, we can do whatever we want to you, and we can decide what that is. And so when you get video involved, there's a higher level of embarrassment than getting pulled over on the side of the road for a DUI or driving too fast, 50 miles over the speed limit. That's what people have to understand about this.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people need to understand is that Rashee Rice is a member of the National Football League Players Association that collectively bargained these rules.
Yep.
They signed off on these rules. Just like if you sign an employment agreement where you work that says, okay, I work for Coke, I understand. I don't come walking in here with a Pepsi in my hand. And then you walk in with a Pepsi in your hand and you get busted or suspended, or somebody comes and talks to you, you don't get to be like, whoa, what the hell? Well, you signed the agreement that said, this is how we conduct ourselves. So, the NFLPA can go fight for an independent arbitrator to hand down the suspensions, that the league makes a case and the Players Association makes a case, and then an independent person makes a decision. They can go fight for that. And the owners might say, all right, we'll take 1% of the revenues. And what happens? The players always sold for the money.
Okay. Yep.
So they got paid. Be clear. They got paid to agree to these rules. I think it's pretty simple, but it does. And the last thing we'll say about this, Sam, it's now going to be in the rearview mirror, and getting it done now better than waiting 4 weeks. I mean, they could have walked this right up to the arbitrator and then said, okay, we'll take the 6 if the league would keep the 6 out there. They could have played it that way. You think it's better to get it done now and get it behind you, or would it have been better to try to target games that you wanted them available for?
Yeah, I never understood the argument that it would somehow benefit the Chiefs to have them play initial 4 games and then sit out over the middle of the season. I mean, to me, this has one defining line of change, which is the first 6 games, and then you've got your team for the rest of the season. I also don't necessarily think just because his hearing was on September 30th that guaranteed he was going to be playing in the first 4 games. I think it could have been a minimum of 4 games, and then the hearing is like, you're back, or it's an extra 2, or it's an extra 4, whatever it might have been. And so I think that was misconstrued initially, which is understandable based on the settlement date. And that's what I'm talking about when you ask me in what ways could the system change. Transparency is the way the system could change. Like, we don't know how the NFL arrives at its number of set games. We didn't know with Willie Gay, even though I know that was a settlement involved, but we still don't know how the NFL arrives at the number with which it requests. And it's similar to, Soren in baseball when they have arbitration, but at least the players part of that arbitration process, or his reps are part of the process. And you hear the argument presented for why this player should make this much, or why, like, that's generally how this works. And just the fact that, like, we're not the only ones kept in the dark here, but the teams are kept in the dark. Sometimes the player. I just think there could be some more transparency in the process.
Yeah. I would agree. Jeff, any final thoughts on tweaking this or on taking the suspension now as opposed to sliding it around?
Well, on the tweaking part of it, I think it's important for people to also know that when you create a policy like this, you can't think of every last possible thing that could happen. When they created this, they weren't thinking about what happens if we get a football player driving 150 miles down the road and he hits somebody. What are we going to do in that state? You kind of take it case by case. So this says there has been a precedent set here, right? And so now we do know there's a really there's a baseline for these kind of situations if we see another street racing collision type situation come up. But as far as the games go, I agree. I think they've got tough games all over. I do think it's a challenge to not have him on the field for 6 games because he's really the most trustworthy option they have in their passing game. Everybody else we're talking about here, whether it's Travis Kelce's age or Xavier Worthy's inexperience, youth, Hollywood Brown's injury, you don't know what you're going to get from everybody else. You knew you had a pretty good sense of what you're going to get from Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, we got our bold and daring predictions to come. We're also going to be laying out all the awards for the Chiefs. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Let's start with the awards. Offensive Player of the Year will be who for the Kansas City Chiefs this year? We have eliminated Patrick Mahomes because that's the duh. So there will be no Patrick Mahomes on this. So we're looking beyond Patrick Mahomes. The Offensive Player of the Year will be who, Jeff?
I took Xavier Worthy, and this is mainly because of a lack of great options. Okay. Maybe it's Rashee Rice. He has a great second half of the season or whatever, but I feel like Xavier Worthy's in the best position to help the Chiefs make the most headway in the first 6 games. I think we'll give him a great opportunity to take hold of this award. I keep hearing about his growth. I keep hearing about the things he can do in the intermediate range and all the stuff he's going to be able to do in this offense with the other weapons around him. I feel like Rashee Rice being gone is a big opportunity for him. And I feel like Patrick Mahomes has had a year to work with him and understands him better. So for me, he's almost a no-brainer because there's nobody in the running backs room who I would think about in this role. So I'll go with Xavier.
Yeah, by the way, you've got company. Our friend Renee Bernetti, who, by the way, is the owner of Italian Delight, one of our new sponsors, is on board with Worthy. So shout out to all the folks over at Italian Delight, KCK. How about you, Sam? Where are you going with this? Xavier Worthy would seem like a good choice. Year 1 to year 2 is a big jump year for wide receivers. Fastest guy in combine history. One there.
I went with Rashee Rice. I think that, these awards are – decided towards the end of the year. And I think that Rashee Rice will be just very, very evidently their best player at the end of the year. And therefore, Like that's what people are going to remember. I mean, maybe I mentioned this on Tuesday's podcast, but the last preseason game, they ran this bubble screen for like 10 yards. And I asked Patrick Mahomes about it after the game because it was just like that play had disappeared from their playbook once Rashee Rice was injured in week 4 last year. And Mahomes said that play completes our offense. And it was like the most simple of plays. Yet when you remove it from their playbook, it's just the offense is different. Rashee Rice, I've mentioned this, I know, but he had 44 more yards after catch than any other receiver in the NFL through 3 weeks of the season. Like, he is their answer to the way defenses play them. And there's no one else that can do what he does. And I think that'll be evident over the first 6 weeks of the season. I think once he comes back, things will look a lot different. And therefore, that helps his case.
Yeah, I do like this. I gave some thought here. Scott said, Offensive Player of the Year, Pacheco. He's looked fast in the preseason. If he stays healthy, he could go for 1,400 plus scrimmage yards, 8 plus TDs. I think his high watermark is about 1,200 scrimmage yards. I think he had 900 and change and 300 and change. They were looking like they were going to use him more in the passing game last year. But I know he got hurt, but they also didn't really use him more in the passing game last year. I gave that some thought because I didn't like my options. Xavier Worthy, I'm worried, is going to be kind of a juiced up McCole Hardman. I'm worried about that. I think he's got the potential to be a lot better. But I went with, like Sam, Rashee Rice. I think the way he started last year, if he plays 11 games, we'll get to some of our bold and daring predictions. I think the numbers are going to be pretty good for Rashee Rice. And again, this isn't an award that the Chiefs hand out, so this is going to be decided on by us. So it's going to be the consensus of, all right, who was the Offensive Player of the Year beyond Patrick Mahomes. And I think Rashee Rice is going to make a giant impact. And he's got time in 11 games to hang some pretty good numbers. I don't think Hollywood Brown will be healthy. I gave a little thought to Travis Kelce. I mean, I do think he looks better as well. So I gave just a little bit of thought for some.
What about some offensive linemen? Like, I think there's options.
I thought about that. Yeah, that was the most options.
Yes, I think like if you believe in Josh Simmons, just based on where the Chiefs were last year at left tackle, I think if Josh Simmons is even above average, he's going to seem like a Pro Bowler here and could have a major impact on the offense.
Everybody and their brothers put out a top 100 list, and I think the highest guy on the offense, not named Patrick Mahomes now, is always Creed Humphrey, isn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, Creed Humphrey.
I assume Kelce will still be high, right?
Kelce was off a top one of the top 100s. No, he's come down quite a bit. I mean, I think Creed Humphrey usually comes in the. There's one, I think he was in the 30s, one he's in the 50s. I mean, there's a lot of where do you put a center in there. But, I think you're right that along the offensive line, it'd probably be a pretty good spot to slot somebody as well. All right, how about Defensive Player of the Year, Jeff?
I got Trent McDuffie. And, this was tough because I wanted to take like a Nick Bolton or Chris Jones. But McDuffie, to me, is the most important person in their secondary. He's their best defensive back. He's their most versatile defensive back. And I think that if he doesn't have a great year, that secondary is going to have a lot of problems. And so I think, to me, he's moving up in the world as far as recognition. He's coming into the point where he's talking about a long-term contract. Got a lot of reasons to play. Finally got that interception last year, so he's touching the ball more and taking it away. I think he's going to have a big year, and I think he's super important in what they want to do defensively.
Yeah, okay. It's a contract year if he doesn't get one done before the year starts. So there's a lot of incentive there as well. Sam, where'd you go?
Yeah, I went with Trent McDuffie as well. I mean, I don't want to miss the obvious here, but to me, Trent McDuffie is going to be the key to what they do on the back end because of where you put him. Like, wherever you put him, he's taking away what the offense wants to do. If that's your prerogative to actually move him around. Like, we have still seen the Chiefs play Shamari Connor in the slot a lot in training camp. So I'm interested to see what it's going to look like in week 1 in Brazil. My inclination says that they will move Trent McDuffie to the slot. And the thing people, I think, don't remember fully about Trent McDuffie in the slot is he was a terrific blitzer as well. Like, he made plays in the backfield too. So I just, like I said, don't want to miss the obvious here. So that's why I picked McDuffie.
Okay. I went with Chris Jones. I think the fact that he's taken every rep at camp, I think Chris Jones, really spent a lot of time last year talking about how fresh his legs were when he missed camp. And that's what he, get some veteran days off. This year, they've made a point that he is taking every rep in training camp, and I think it's because he didn't like the results. He talked at the podium about, well, the numbers, we'll see where the numbers are at the end of the year. And at the end of the year, they weren't what they wanted. Like, when he only had 2 or 3 sacks, 6, 7 games in there, he was talking like there was going to be this big wave of sacks, and it never came. And so Chris Jones is always in great shape, but he took all the reps. I think, he's at that age where he can still have a big year. If he stays healthy, I think he gets the sack total back up. And I think Chris Jones ends up being the defensive player of the year. People talking about what kind of season he had. I could see a lot of hype coming around Chris Jones off his year. So I'll go with Chris Jones. How about the surprise for the team, Jeff? Surprise as in positive, because we've also got disappointment. Who's your surprise?
Yeah. Bob Tonyan, a guy who had people wondering what was going on a couple of days ago when he was cut. And I think he's going to be quietly a big part of what this team does offensively. I think the risk of Travis Kelce getting hurt is real at his age. I like what he showed in the offseason. I like the way they used him. I imagine that Andy Reid can get really creative with what they do. I think he could surpass Noah Gray in terms of opportunities. I mean, he's more accomplished than Noah Gray is as a tight end. I mean, he's an older player, but he's done more in this league than Noah Gray has. So I think there could be some things happening with him, especially with Rashee Rice being hurt, when they have to get really creative with their passing game that could open some things up. I like his potential in this offense a lot.
Okay. Robert Tonyan. How about you, Sam?
I picked Ashton Gelati. I think his effort gives him a high floor. I think, Josh Simmons is the rookie that's going to get all the attention, but Gelati's probably, to me, the next best option among their rookies. You mentioned, Stern, that the Chiefs don't do offensive and defensive player of the year. They do a rookie of the year award. And I think Gelati has a good chance to win that. If it's not Josh Simmons, Gelati would be my pick. He's been really, like I said, his motor, his effort, all that stuff gives him a high floor to where I think he'll make an impact. He doesn't have crazy athleticism, but I think because of that, people are sleeping on him a little bit. And I think by the end of the year, when you're talking like week 12 and on, I think he's going to play a lot. And, it might be second to George Karlaftis among the defensive ends, because I think right now the only thing holding him back from starting for this team is the fact that he doesn't have a lot of experience, that he is still learning some things. And once that starts rolling, I think he's going to get a lot of snaps.
Okay. I like that. That'll be good for the Chiefs if that's the case. I went with Kingsley Suamataia. We're talking about a guy that has been,
that'd be a surprise.
That's a surprise that he's going to end up starting all the games. I mean, I thought he showed a lot of progress in the third game. They're committed to him. He has a lot of physical tools. I think there are going to be plenty of bumps early on, but I think, somewhere along the weeks like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we're going to be like, we haven't really mentioned Kingsley Suamataia for a few weeks, and they are committed to him. And I think I can't believe that they're going to put somebody out there that they really don't see a future in with Patrick Mahomes, one, just on the team and as important as he is, and two, this is kind of a contract year for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, next year is the year that they renegotiate this deal, and I don't think you want a pissed off quarterback that you're dealing with. So I'm leaning a little bit on they think this is the guy, and they're going with him. And I think if he ends up being the guy and starting all the games and playing all right, that's going to shock a lot of us based upon what we saw in those first 2 preseason games. So I'll roll Kingsley Suamataia there. Process of elimination, really deductive reasoning more than it is. I'm hugely impressed by everything that's going into it. I'm going to lean on their expertise, and if I'm wrong, I blame them.
How many guys did you eliminate?
I eliminated like the other guys that I was considering for this. I considered Tyquan Thornton and walked away from that pretty quick. I considered I thought Isaiah Pacheco could kind of fall in this, but I thought if I did that, it'd be like, what are you talking about? He's a starting running back, But
I think the guy's never had a 1,000-yard season. I think we would have accepted that.
Okay. But I thought Kingsley Suamataia is definitely a surprise. So
I think it's more bold and daring than surprise, but
okay.
It's your list.
All right. Disappointment. Jeff, who's your disappointment for the year?
Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's fiance. I just think, and not a huge disappointment, but I think the expectation is, he's in shape and he's running around. He looked good in the preseason game. It's August. Like, I think, again, the odds of a 36-year-old tight end playing at a high level are not great. And so I do believe he'll have fewer snaps. I think he'll have fewer catches, fewer yards, and I think he may have even fewer touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns last year. To me, that was a disappointment. I think this offense is going to shift more towards Rashee Rice's and Xavier Worthy's. He'll still be functional, but he's not going to be a star. Those top 100s have it right.
Okay. How about the disappointment for you, Sam?
Well, I want to make it clear that this is not, especially with Jeff's pick and with some picks I'm seeing in the chat, like this is not somebody who we think is a bad player. This is somebody who we think falls short of maybe what outside expectations are that they're going to produce this year. And that's what my pick is as well. I picked Tyquan Thornton for this. I really thought that Jeff would pick Christian Fulton. So I was trying
already a disappointment. What are you talking about?
Well, that's my point. But I just think Tyquan Thornton is a terrific story. Like his story in New England is what Sky Moore's story is in Kansas City. And so if you can imagine suddenly Sky Moore having a training camp for another team and some people are like, wow, he's going to solve this aspect of their passing game, which with Tyquan Thornton, I think there's this perception that he's going to solve the downfield passing game. It's the talk of training camp. It happened in the last preseason game against the Bears. And I don't think he's going to have as significant as an impact as people think. Like I've heard him compared to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think if they get, the 550 or whatever out of him, like that would be a really good number for a guy like Tyquan Thornton. I think more likely he falls, somewhere in the 300s when you're talking about his receiving yards.
I think he's Justin Watson. Just the expectation is there'll be more production when they get to Justin Watson, part of the playbook.
Justin Watson played a lot. I don't think Tyquan Thornton plays as much as Justin Watson.
That's a good point. Let me put it where you would have liked Justin Watson to be had all the other people been in line, like what you wanted him to be, like your fourth wideout. I think that's the hope for Tyquan Thornton, is that he's the fourth wideout, right? Really, the hope is Jalen Royals is your fourth wideout and plays him down to fifth. But I think reality is with a rookie receiver who's already hurt right now, Tyquan Thornton is your number 4 guy. Now with Rashee Rice out, he's your number 3 guy, maybe. I think there's opportunity there. But I hear what you're saying. I do think that people think he's going to be, Sammy Watkins, maybe, and he's not going to be that.
Yeah, definitely not Watkins. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling's first year in Kansas City, he had like almost 700 yards, and I've heard that comparison with Tyquan Thornton. Like I said, that's a really big number to expect from Tyquan Thornton. I guess what I would say is his career high was his first year, which was like 250. He hasn't had 300 yards in a season before.
Yeah. All right. Jeff didn't go there, but I will. Christian Fulton. I mean, the fact that he's already hurt to start camp, I think he's a good player, but I don't know how much he's going to play. And so, I think there could be some talk, especially with just keeping the 2 safeties, that Justin Reed was let go so that they could sign this guy. I think that's also kind of hung around his neck, is that his cap figure is the same cap figure that Justin Reed had and signed for. So I think there's going to be a lot of comparisons to that. He needs to play well, and I think it's going to be difficult for him to play up to where you're like, yeah, I'm fine, Justin Reed's out, especially if Brian Cook is getting burnt a lot. That's going to shine light back on the fact that Justin Reed isn't there, and you're going to look to where did the money go. It went to Christian Fulton. So I think there's a lot of factors that point towards Christian Fulton. He needs to play 14, 15 games and play well. Otherwise, I think people are going to be disappointed in what they get from Christian Fulton. All right, how about a record, Jeff? What record are you giving the Chiefs?
I got them 11-6. I think the division is a lot tougher for them this year. They were 5-1 last year with it, and they gave a game away at the end. I don't think they're going to go that way. I could see them losing 3 games in the division. Some combination, not all 3 teams, but some combination: Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders. And then you factor in the Lions, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Bills, the Ravens. I think they'll get 3 losses in there somewhere. I think they were like a 12-win team last year. They just got to 15 because they pulled some things out of their ass and got some, I don't want to say breaks, but they made some breaks for themselves. I don't think that's going to happen. I think those close games kind of reverse, and they end up being 11-6. Still win the division, but 11-6.
Okay, Sam?
I got him at 12-5, which seems like a very small difference from Jeff, but if you follow the markets, it's a very, very big difference.
When he is under, when he is over.
What Jeff has.
Yeah.
Jeff's right that this team, I think, was more like a 12-5 team last year. So I know that seems like I'm picking them to be worse. I don't think this is a worse team than what it was last year. I think that a team that won 6 games on literally the last snap last year, and also that doesn't include the Raiders game, which was technically the second to last snap, that Aiden O'Connell doesn't know the snaps coming towards them. So that's 7 of their wins last year. Almost half of their wins came in that fashion. If they only go 4-3 in those types of games, suddenly they're 12-5. The other thing to consider is their schedule's brutal. I mean, once again, they have a top 5 schedule in terms of difficulty. So I think you have to factor that in when you're picking their record.
I have teetered back and forth between 13-4 and 12-5. 12-5 is what looks like it, but they always seem to exceed. Like none of us who had 15-2 last year, right? Yep. And so 12-5 is the number I landed on, but they usually find a way to do better than I think they're going to do when I win, loss, and look at it. So I'm going to go 13-4 with the team. 12-5, I think, is the right pick for this team, which is vulnerable, which means one thing goes wrong along the way, then now you're 11-6. Like I think, if you think 12-5, they better not have any big injuries because they're already starting without Rashee Rice. So they need to stay healthy in those early games. They need to survive those early games just to get to that number. All right, where do they go out of the playoffs, Jeff?
Division round for me. I've always said if they get to the championship game, then they're probably going to win it and go to the Super Bowl. So I don't think they go to the Super Bowl this year. I think the divisional rounds where they get stung. And I feel like there's, again, probably the Ravens, the Bills, the Broncos, possibly the Chargers. There's probably 4 teams at least that could give them problems in that round. There's not going to be any gimmies, I think, this year, unless Pittsburgh sneaks in somehow. And Aaron Rodgers, I know how Sam loves Aaron Rodgers, but I think that's all the teams that could give them problems are better in all the right places and more experience. I think that's going to get them. Streak ends this year.
Okay, you should have saved that for Bold and Daring.
Yeah. Well, we had this category, so you got to put it somewhere. But it is bold and it is daring. We'll note it for sure. We can put it down as a 4th one. Sam, what about you?
I've got them losing the AFC Championship. I know I've been on record with this before, but I just think the Bills' schedule is remarkably easy for a team that won its division last year. It's setting up for them to get the number 1 seed, and so I've got the Chiefs traveling to Buffalo in the AFC Championship, and they've played such close games with I know what the record is against the Bills in the playoffs. Dig into it, and it's remarkable that the Bills haven't pulled one of those out before. So I've predicted the Bills to the Super Bowl. I think it's because they beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
So you got them as a 2 seed or the 3 seed then?
I didn't go through it seed by seed, but I guess if I went through the other divisions, I probably would pick them to have the 2 seed with that record.
Because my logic was they'd be the 3 seed now.
Because they play the Ravens at home, right? So I guess that if they win that game, suddenly they're looking at a tiebreaker with the other team I think is going to win that division.
And Jess probably got them going to Baltimore and losing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, no, I'm talking about during the regular season, right? I mean, like their regular season game this year is against Baltimore's at home, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the divisional round. I'm picking the divisional round game.
Yeah, he's projecting what his seeds are. Buffalo's the 1, Baltimore's the 2, and the Chiefs are the 3. So
yeah. Well, what I'm saying is they play the Ravens at home in the first month of the season. So I'm saying I think the Chiefs are more likely to win that game, therefore more likely to have a tiebreaker if Baltimore also finishes 12-5.
I think Jeff the flip side is that he thinks they're going to just win more games.
Yeah.
11-6, he thinks Baltimore's going to have 12 or 13 wins.
Yeah.
Listen, the trend continues. Jeff is the low water mark. Sam is reality in between, and I'm the cheerleader. I've got them winning the Super Bowl. Why wouldn't you? They played in 5 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. Like, why would you? Like, the trend is they play in the Super Bowl. Like, I would listen to losing in the Super Bowl, but you're talking about teams that have never done it now are like due. Oh, Buffalo's due. Baltimore's due.
I don't think it's that they're due. I just think like Buffalo's a really good. Buffalo was a better team than the Chiefs last year, weren't they?
I don't think so.
Well, what was that line last year when they played them in the AFC Championship?
I think they played twice and they split, and the game that mattered more, the Chiefs won, and that seems to happen all the time. I mean, why wouldn't there be? I mean, why wouldn't you look at it and say, okay, there is a fatal flaw? I don't think it's Josh Allen, but I think it's McDermott.
I think the way I look at it is like, again, the only thing you can compare it to is the Patriots, and eventually the Colts got there. Eventually the Ravens got there. Eventually the Steelers got there. You start losing to these teams. They get better.
Yes, and I get that. I think if you ask me, how are the Chiefs going to play in the Super Bowl every year for the rest of Patrick Mahomes' career? No, I agree with you. But in any one year, trying to cherry pick and say this is the year, like I don't see what's wrong with the Chiefs now. Andy Reid's there. Patrick Mahomes is there. Steve Spagnuolo is there. Chris Jones is still playing at a high level. Patrick Mahomes is playing at a high level. They've upgraded the receiving core when Rashee Rice gets back. If they're healthy, they had bad luck at the receiving last year. They've upgraded left tackle. I don't see where the team is worse. I agree with what you're saying. No, I do not think the Chiefs are going to represent the AFC every year forever. But in any one year, you should pick the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, like that's not logical.
Yeah,
I just laid out that I think the team is better, and they beat these teams last year, and they always do this.
Yeah, I mean
it's absolutely logical. It's illogical to try to pick the random time that the best.
Nobody said they're due. Like I'm not picking. Yeah. I want to be clear. I am not picking Buffalo because I think they're due to win.
Yeah.
I'm picking Buffalo because of what I said. They have a remarkably easy schedule. They should be a number 1 seed. The Chiefs should be traveling to Buffalo. That's a tough game. I think the Bills would be favored in that game.
It's a tough game. They won 2 years ago. The Chiefs won.
They did, but I'm not picking the team that won 2 years ago.
Yeah, right now.
You
didn't pick the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Why not? They won last year. They've been in 2 of the last 3. Why not pick them?
I didn't pick the Eagles, and I was wrong.
You didn't pick them this year. I'm saying you didn't pick them this year.
When we're going through this exercise, you're telling me the past history of Andy Reid is irrelevant. The past history.
I've got him going to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, and I've got him going further.
I think
that I'm fine with
yours is right.
No, I'm fine with your pick, but you're saying the only logical argument is to say they're going to make the Super Bowl. Like there's some logic in
I didn't say it's the only logical argument. I said I don't know why. For me, I don't know why trying to pick which one I like. If you said every year from here for the next 5 years with the core of their team, every year the Chiefs are the pick that should be made, right? In any one year. Will they go all 5 years? No, they won't. But it's like it's the same thing as like, well, but you know, I didn't hit 16 and I got a 4. You know, what happens? Like I think it's the same thing. It's the math of it, in my opinion. The Chiefs are the better playoff team because they have the coach is offensive minded, the quarterback and coach are in place. And so they're the better playoff team. They've proven it time and time again. So if anything's close, why wouldn't you take the Chiefs?
Why don't the odds makers make them the favorite then, right, this year?
Why don't they make them? They're like the 3rd or 4th favorite because the odds because people I think are like you. Yeah. They want to find the entertainment. Just like every piece that's written, everyone's coming out now. Patrick Mahomes doesn't read defense as well. I can't remember which guy said that. That one was out there. God, I mean, the dunce all the way to 5 AFC championships and 3 Super Bowls, but he doesn't read defense as well. Like there's no clicks in writing Chiefs are the best team, they win again. And there's no like bragging to your buddies like, yeah, the Chiefs are going to win it again. That's why everybody hates the Patriots. And that's why they all hate the Chiefs, because everybody wants to find that time and be the guy that said, I found when they were down. I can find no bigger example than 2014 when the Patriots came into Arrowhead and the Chiefs kicked their ass and everybody announced, it's over. Tom Brady is done. He's old. It's over. And it wasn't. He went to 4 more Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. He went to 5 more Super Bowls, winning 4 of them. So that's my point is like, we are always looking for why it's like when things are going to level out. Nothing has changed on what's going to level out the Chiefs.
I just want to be clear that I do think that applies to some people. That does not apply to the reason I didn't pick the Chiefs at all. Like I am not picking anything to level out. I'm not picking this random time where, okay, they've got to get God at some point. It's going to be this year. I think there's a lot of sound arguments for why this is a year that the Bills should win. I mean, like I said, their schedule favors them a lot to play this game at home. And I think they'll be favored in that game. By the way, that game you mentioned 2 years ago, they were favored in that game. If the game last year against the Chiefs had been played in Buffalo, they would have been favored in that game because over the course of the regular season, the last 2 years, the Bills have been a better team than the Chiefs were over the course of the regular season, at least according, to the odds makers.
Yeah, and I would even argue that a lot of times with the Patriots comparison, that people always forget the 10 years that they went without winning a championship. That happens, and so just because a team is great for a period of time doesn't mean they'll always be great. Like, yeah, all these things are still there, but Travis Kelce's older. We don't know if the receiving core is going to stay healthy or live up to expectations. We don't know if Josh Simmons and Kuz Mate are going to. We apply all these great things to people who just show up and get the acclaim because they're part of the team, right? And it's not the same team it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4. It's a different. That's how I look at it. They're a different team now, and those teams like the Ravens and the Bills, I think, are a lot more predictable and their greatness.
I know we got to get to break here, Soren, but I do want to point out that I think your argument that if you're going to look 4 years down the road, and this is going to be the same core, even 2 years down the road, if we're picking next year's Super Bowl, 3 years Super Bowl, 4 years Super Bowl, I think everything you said, like that's where I follow that argument most. Yes, if we're picking the 2027 Super Bowl, I'm picking the Chiefs. The 28 Super Bowl, I'm picking the Chiefs. I just think there's certain circumstances this year that trend towards the Bills.
That's fair. And I think and I agree with that. And I do think the Bills are likely to be the 1 seed. It's going to be a big problem if they don't get there because I think they're all banking on being the 1 seed. But I also think that the Chiefs have proven that they can go on the road and win.
Yeah.
To me, it's just easy to hang your hat on that and then just sit back. And here's where we go. We'll take a break, hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's get to some bold and daring predictions. Jeff, we're going to do offensive and defensive. 3 on each. Do you want to start us off with your offensive, or your bold and daring offensive prediction number 1?
Kareem Hunt will lead the team in touchdowns.
Okay.
And that's based on the fact that I think that when they get inside the 5-yard line, he's going to touch the ball a lot. And I don't know if there's another player who will have those kinds of opportunities. Rashee Rice's suspension being a big part of this.
Okay. Sam?
I'm trying to figure out where was he last year, Jeff? I guess he had 7 touchdowns. So he was second to Xavier Worthy. Worthy had 9, he had 7. My first one is, despite missing the first 6 games, I still think Rashee Rice leads the team in receiving this year. I think if you took away the first 7 last year, he had 6 last year, he probably would have done that. So I think Rashee Rice is a really good player, and I think he's the key to the offense outside of Patrick Mahomes. Even more, he's the one guy that can cover up for a bad offensive line too. And I just think the Chiefs will use the hell out of him when he comes back.
All right, I will shade away and not use, but just to comment on yours. I have Rashee Rice still tops 1,000 yards receiving, but I think yours is bolder because you're saying he's going to lead the team. So that means, Xavier, he's still going to go by whatever Xavier Worthy does when he's sitting on the bench. So I'll take that one out. I'll go with Patrick Mahomes throws 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. I think it's
familiar.
Yeah. If you look, Tom Brady had great numbers, and then they would tail off, and then he had great numbers. There are those years that it all comes together offensively, and I think this is one of them. I think they were embarrassed by their performance offensively last year. They know it was a problem. I think a lot of effort's gone into it, and I think the injuries were a big part of it. I don't expect him to be as hurt. And, Patrick Mahomes has been doubted by a lot of people, and I think Patrick Mahomes comes out and has a great year. So I got 5,000 plus, 40 plus for Patrick Mahomes. Number 2 for you, Jeff.
Mike Caliendo will start 8 games at left guard.
Wow.
Flying in the face of your surprise Kingsley
Yeah.
Suamataia. I think Kingsley is on the bench by midseason.
Okay. All right. Some people would say that's not bold. That's expected. But I think it's bold.
Oh, I don't know. Picking the exact replacement too. That's a bold prediction.
That is a bold one. That is a bold one. Okay. All right. Next for you, Sam.
I've got that Patrick Mahomes finishes top 5 in the NFL in lowest sack rate. Last year, they were bottom half in the league. And this isn't just pressure to sack rate where you can say, okay, well, Patrick Mahomes is really good. This is overall sack rate. So it means the offensive line has to be better too. We know the issues of the offensive line last year, but I also think if his problem is at left guard, to Jeff's just, bold prediction on having a problem at left guard, he handles that better than he does the pressure from the tackles being the unknown. So I think that they'll get back to where they're not taking as many negative plays on passing downs.
Okay. I am going to go number 2 with the Chiefs rush for more than 2,000 yards. They have not done that since 2015. They have had 1,800. They've had 1,600, but they have not had 2,000 yards.
You played Madden with this team? They're 5,000-yard passer and 2,000 yards rushing?
Yes. Yes. They're going to be – I'll get to another prediction here in a minute.
They're playing the SWAC now?
They are going to lead the NFL. Well, that's all the yards.
Yeah.
That's all the yards. What would that be if they just had exactly 7,000? 7,000 would be
well, last year they had
111 yards a game. It's a little bit. Yeah, I didn't put those two together on paper. That can be done, but not very often. So sure. Historic.
Just trying to split them.
I'm trying to I can get one of these two. I'll get one of these two.
You're going to average 100 plays a game.
I'll stand by it. Yeah. 411. I was thinking like 17 games. It's a little bit easier, to get these numbers, but that's still an aggressive year. But yeah. All right. I'll stick with it. Number 3 for you, Jeff.
Noah Gray will catch more touchdown passes than Travis Kelce.
Didn't he do that last year?
Did he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he had 5, right?
Wow. But I feel really good about this one.
Noah Gray had 5 last year. Kelce had 3.
Yeah.
I guess it's bold in saying that last year wasn't a fluke.
Yeah. Jeff worked in shitting on Travis Kelce.
That's it.
Boys, we've got disappointment. Yeah. Now we've got Noah Gray is topping Travis Kelce.
That's right.
It's great. All right, Sam, what do you got?
I've got this is a little quirky, but I've got after Rashee Rice's return, the Chiefs will be a top 5 red zone offense for the rest of the year after finishing 23rd in red zone offense last year.
Return. Chiefs.
So week 7 and on, I think the Chiefs will be a top 5 red zone offense.
Red zone. Got it. Okay. So he's the key.
I think he's the key. I actually think that's where the tight end part that Jeff has mentioned throughout this podcast will come into play a little bit. They did keep Jason Brownlee. I think they've, Kareem Hunt being an entire training camp. I just think they're better prepared for the red zone than they used to be. And also, when you look at red zone success, typically the number one indicator is how many times you get there. It's just how good your offense is. And I think that last year was a little bit fluky that they were so poor in the red zone.
All right. I will wrap up with Travis Kelce tops 1,000 yards. In your face, Chadiha.
Well, he's got to. I mean, to get to 5,000, he's got to have him.
Right. Yeah.
He's going to run for 200 too. That's
Wildcat quarterback. Yeah.
Brilliance of those predictions. All right, those are our offensive predictions. Now, how about defense, Jeff? Where do you start on defense?
Nick Bolton makes his first Pro Bowl.
Okay.
Over a big contract and opportunity arises. He becomes the face of the defense.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to put, I'm even add, becomes face of the defense. Okay. Sam?
Chris Jones doubles his sack total. this year. Last year just 5.5, but I still think that's another thing that when you look at the data and the underlying metrics was fluky. He led the NFL in pressures at his position until week 18 when he set out and Zach Allen passed him because he played. So I just think a lot of what Chris Jones' sack numbers were overstated because I think it was just bad fortune in a way that I think will level out over the course of this year, which means he gets at least 11 this year.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I had him being the defensive player of the year, so I obviously think there's going to be something happen. What did he have, 6 last year?
5.5, right?
5.5, so you got him for 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had that he gets to a 10, but I'll grade that one out. I've got extra ones. Yours is more bold.
Just 5. I guess it was just 5 last year. Yeah, I thought it was 5.5, but it's just
okay.
5.
But mine's the same. It's no more bold than yours, so I'll grade that one out. And I will go with the Chiefs' return to top 5 in sacks. They went way down, but they have spent a lot of time being 2 or 3. I think they get back to getting after the quarterback. I think Charles Omenihu helps a lot. Ashton Gelati, they've got more depth there to get after the quarterback. I think they return to being a top 5 sacking team, and I really think it could be top 3. But I think they get after the quarterback much more effectively. I like Chris Jones, as I said, to bounce back and have more numbers. So I think that number goes way up. Jeff, number 2 for you.
Trent McDuffie, he's the opposite of Travis Kelce in this exercise, will set a career high in interceptions.
Which is be what, 3?
Yeah, I think 3. Yeah, Jaden Hicks led the team with 3 last year, right? So yeah.
Yeah. That's
no
still
bar.
Yeah. It's not that low. I mean, he covers so well they don't throw at him.
Yeah,
so
he's got 2 in 3 years?
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
I think in back-to-back weeks last year, maybe.
Yeah. So all right. Number 2 for you, Sam.
This factors into why I didn't pick the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. So I've got, after back-to-back years in the top 10, the Chiefs will finish outside the top 10 in yards allowed this year. I don't think that they've solved this trend that they had last year of giving up too many explosives. I think there's some questions in their secondary without Justin Reed. And I think there's some questions up the middle with their run defense as well. That's not Chris Jones' forte. I don't think that Derek Nottie solves the run defense. He was here last year. They had a good run defense last year. I mean, like Leo Chanel's good against it. It's not just Nick Bolton. But I just think if you they were tied for 4th in yards per carry last year. If they're even like 12th in that, still above average, then I still think that prompts them to fall outside the top 10 in total yards allowed.
Okay. I will go with Jeffrey Bossa takes Drew Tranquil's spot in the defense. At some point during the year, he moves into the starting rotation and becomes the guy. I think the speed factor, coverage factor,
Yeah, I like that one.
I could have just, made a little blander and said Jeffrey Bossa becomes a starter because I can see Nick Bolton does get kind of nicked up and Tranquil maybe moves over to the mic and Bossa there's 2 ways for Bossa to get in there. But I think specifically, I think Tranquil took a step back last year. And if he's not taking a step forward this year, I think as Bossa becomes familiar with the defense, I like the way he flies around. And I think the Chiefs like it too. And so I could see him getting into the starting rotation. All right, Jeff, number 3.
I went the opposite with Chris Jones. Career low in sacks, and Soren asked me 15 times to call the Chiefs defense elite.
That's not bold.
Well, the second part's going to happen. First part's the bold part.
Chris Jones has a career low in sacks, so less than 5.
Fewer than 5 sacks.
Yeah.
But I'm not even 100% sure. Is that right? That is his low?
Yeah, I'm looking that up now.
I think his low is 4. For some reason.
Let's see here.
He had 2 as a rookie.
Wow. Okay, that's really bold then.
That is bold. Yeah, that is bold. Okay. Chris Jones, less than 2 sacks. We're seeing it differently. All right, Sam.
I mean, you're predicting to like blow out his knee or something. I don't know. I didn't really know. We didn't really have a spot, offense or defense, to put this. So I'm putting it on the defense, but I've got the Chiefs will win the AFC West by 3 games. I don't think this division is as competitive as people are making out to be. I think when you look at Denver a year ago and look at the Chargers a year ago, they beat up on bad teams in a way that I don't think they'll have the same opportunity to do this year when I look at their schedules. So I just think those 2 teams are more flawed than people are saying they are. So I've got the Chiefs at 12-5, which means I've got second place finishing at 9 games.
Okay. And I have Dave Merritt will get a defensive coordinator job at the end of the year. I think it's overdue. And I think they're going to play well defensively. I think he's going to get a lot of credit. He's had some interviews. I think his name is up there. I think if they're not going to go take Steve Spagnuolo for a head coaching job, and he could get there with the Chiefs if Spags left, but that seems unlikely these days. So I've got Dave Merritt getting a head coaching job, a defensive coordinator's job.
So that was a big jump.
That was going to be really bold and really daring. You can be bold and daring by supporting our great sponsors here at the Red, Gold, and Bold. Gann Asphalt and Concrete has served Kansas City since 1994. That's more than 30 years. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and operated. If you have any kind of parking lot problems, whether you need a brand new one built, you need striping, you need signage, all of it. Just repairs. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Kansas City's best. One contractor. All things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Northland Injury Law, if you've been hurt in an accident, whether that's at work, in a car, falls, other personal injuries, they're Kansas City's best, voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. It's Northland Injury Law. If you have a case, text HURT 22222 or call 816-400-HURT, and our friends at Italian Delight. First restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago, whether it's their strombolis, calzones, sausage rolls, their subs, their lasagna, their chicken Alfredo. Get in there. Italian Delight offers daily lunch specials starting at under $10. You can find them online at ItalianDelightKS.com or just a few minutes east of Kansas Speedway on State Ave. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.